Hi YouTube, I'm Bailey and I am the creator and curator of Book Boyfriend Box, and today I want to talk to you about villains! Yay! I love a good villain. Everyone loves a good villain. Why is it we love villains? Let's talk about that first of all. I think what makes a good villain is not someone who is inherently evil, but somebody who simply has a different moral compass than you or I, or obviously the hero of the story. I think that's what makes a good and compelling villain, and most of the villains that I'm going to share with you today are just that. So my favorite villains are in no particular order, and the first one I want to talk about is President Snow. You're so evil, I love it. President Snow, he's just such a conniving little dude. Like, I just hate him, but I love to hate him. I think he makes a wonderful foil for Katniss. I love their interactions in the books and how he is constantly challenging her. He's also a really good foil for President Coin, and I love that at the end of the series we get this feeling like, was the rebellion really that great of a thing to do? Are they really better off with this new system than they were with President Snow? I'd like to think yes. Sometimes I think the villainization of President Snow by the people against the Hunger Games is really overdone, and it's awesome because people forget that President Snow didn't start the Hunger Games. He just worked his way up to the ranks and is perpetuating them. And he knows how to use them effectively. I love that the movie included more about President Snow and that we get to see his point of view. I think a really poignant part of the first movie is when he talks about hope and how little hope is effective, but too much becomes dangerous. We see that the hope that Katniss starts to offer viewers of the games is what kind of causes this cataclysm, which ends in the rebellion. And he's really smart. He knows about that. He knows what's going on. He's no dummy. He's awesome. My next favorite villain is the evil queen from Snow White, and the closest that I have to having a book of that is the Lunar Chronicles with Queen Lavanna. I just love the evil queen. She's kind of my hero. I love fairy tales because I think the portrayal of women in fairy tales is very telling. The heroine is always this sweet, naive, and kind of dumb person, while if there is a woman who is considered evil, she's always very conniving and really honestly quite intelligent. And I don't know, I just love the evil queen. I love that she's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the prettiest. She's like one of those high school mean girls to the max, and it's brilliant. Another one of my favorite evil villains is Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones. Honestly, I like all of the villains in Game of Thrones because all of them end up being not that bad. Like, you end up understanding more about why they are the way they are and seeing that they're just human. Like, they've got good moments, they've got bad moments. Sometimes they have more bad moments than good moments. And I think really the only exception to that rule is Cersei. But even then we see that she really does love her children. They might be the only thing she loves more than power. And I just love her because she does what she can and she kicks ass, and now she's on the Iron Throne and she's gonna create some real big damage before she gets taken off that sucker. Still not sure who's gonna take it. That's another video for another time. Alright, this is another one of my favorite villains who I think became an instant classic, and that is Kylo Ren. Alright, that moment when he just took off his helmet in the movie for the first time, oh, such a good moment. I loved it. Some people have issues with the portrayal of Kylo, but I think he's really brilliant for a couple reasons. First, I love that his face and Adam Driver doesn't match what his mask and his suit looks like. You kind of envision this really muscular, like mean face, terrible person behind that mask, and then you take off the helmet and you've got little skinny Adam Driver underneath there. I love that because Kylo Ren is this huge emulation of Darth Vader, and I almost got the sense that we're seeing like this little boy playing dress up when he takes off that helmet, and I think it's awesome. I also love Kylo Ren because I don't think he gives like enough credit due. First of all, he like sent Luke freaking Skywalker into hiding. This guy's not somebody you want to mess around with, okay? That's some serious crap going on. He also is younger, and I think he's sort of this wonderful in-between of the Anakin Skywalker we see in the prequels and then the more composed Darth Vader we get in the originals. People kind of tend to call Kylo Ren a crybaby, and I don't think of him that way at all. I think he actually shows a lot of restraint. If we kind of remember, Darth Vader just sort of killed anybody who ticked him off, where Kylo Ren is like, I'm gonna take my anger out on this piece of machinery and throw a tantrum there, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be still alive, even though you probably really did something wrong and ticked me off a lot. I'm Kylo Ren, beating up my camera. So yeah, I think Kylo Ren's great, and I'm so excited to see more about what made him turn. Is he really on the dark side, or is he more of just there to kill off Snoke? That'd be awesome. I just think the dark side in general doesn't get enough credit, because if I were in the Star Wars universe, I'd be a Sith. Sorry, I would be. They get to have families and express themselves. Jedi are kind of boring. Alright, and last but not least, my favorite villain is the Darkling. The Darkling. Awesome! First of all, I love this series. I speak Russian. I lived in Russia for a year. I love that Russian culture is making its way into young adult literature. It's not always accurate, but whatever, I'm just happy it's there. We know the Darkling is a good villain because even people who don't like these books like the Darkling. And the Darkling really embodies what I was talking about earlier. He is not an inherently evil person. He does some freaking terrible things though. And he obviously has a very different moral compass than Alina or myself. But we love him anyway because he is still so human. I liked the first book, and I honestly wasn't a huge fan of the rest of the books, but he's the reason that I kept reading. Why is the Darkling so compelling? I think he really embodies a part of ourselves. Like, we can all see ourselves in the Darkling. And I think that's what makes the relationship between Alina and the Darkling so interesting, is because she very clearly identifies with him. At first, this is the very thing that really actually draws them together. But even as the series continues and she realizes, oh hey, Darkling is kind of a nefarious person. I don't know why nobody thought that Darkling was a nefarious name. There are some things about him that really resonate with me, and I can totally see why she would be interested in him. I mean, yeah, he's probably the only person that really understands her and her abilities, and it made for such an interesting dynamic. I actually have an honorable mention, and I'm going to mention this one because he isn't a mainstream Harry Potter villain. Oh, he's about to be! I actually love Grindelwald. He's always been one of the most intriguing characters in Harry Potter to me, even though we don't see a lot of him. And I'm really excited for Fantastic Beasts because we get to explore him more. It should be exciting! So those are some of my favorite villains. I'm sure I could name an infinite amount more because villains are the best. So comment below with who your favorite villains are, and if you liked my villains, if you didn't like my villains, what you think about those villains. I'd love to hear more about your favorite villains and why they are your favorite villains.